Live from the Washington DC area, all empowered citizens need to know about intelligent use of resources, smart governance, inclusive communities, smart industry, and healthy, thriving urbanization. This is Smart Sustainability, the TV talk about shaping a sustainable future in the digital age with Nicolette DeVidar. The American dream, what is it? Where does it come from? Do younger generations still know it and know of it? Do immigrants perceive it maybe differently? And what is the American dream in 2023 for Americans across the board? Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nicolette DeVidar. We're going a bit soul-searching tonight for America, or better said, America's soul. As the presidential election cycle is about to get heated up, and we'll hear all the usual fluff of what America is and isn't, what everybody will do or won't. What is on people's minds and what's on your mind is what we're going to find out tonight. What excites you about the future? What concerns you when you think about the next 2 to 5 years or about your children's future? And what makes you tick? Where are you, where are we all coming from? Soul searching for the American dream in 2023, today in our first etap. The concept of the American dream is unique worldwide. No one speaks about the French dream or the Chinese dream or the German dream other than perhaps in a historian or power context about some time periods or particular leader. Although if you ask people in these countries, there might be a common consensus of what people perhaps dream about in general. But it's not a palpable, ever-present idea or value proposition ingrained in the very soul. A unified concept for an entire nation. Journalists from around the world often refer to the American dream with a generic perception of what it means. With slogans like, "From dishwasher help to millionaire," America stirs up dreams. Does it do that also, though, among its own inhabitants today? Those that are here, those that have come, and those that are still coming. No question, the American dream today has morphed into a wider meaning based on our individual consciousness and interpretation, and growing with our awakening senses. In brief, it's evolving with us, and that's a good thing. The danger of losing a dream is when we stop dreaming, stop aspiring to something higher, become complacent, or when a dream is interpreted by others. The question is, are we actually at this point? Are we still dreaming today, keeping our dreams alive, going after what we want? And is what we want actually changing? There is a saying that says having had something liberates you from needing to have. So while in the last 50 years there was a big focus on material accomplishments, status symbols, etc., today it has slightly shifted for many. With growing material prosperity, people want more time with family, better work-life balance, and more meaning in their lives. Wants, though, are still there. They're just changing. So dreams should be still there, shouldn't they? Or are we at a point where we let others inhibit our dreaming capabilities by suggesting what we dream about might actually be bad? Have we stopped dreaming altogether out of complacency, giving responsibility to others? And have we lost trust in our own capabilities of getting what we want? Or are we perhaps on the verge of a wider, deeper definition of the American dream? Now, Wikipedia writes about the American dream. It's a national ethos of the United States, a set of ideals, including representative democracy, rights, liberty, and equality, in which freedom is interpreted as the opportunity for individual prosperity and success, as well as upward social mobility for oneself and their children, achieved through a capitalist society with few barriers. Well, that's a very specific definition. The original writer, though, who coined the term the American dream, James Truslove Adams, in 1931, gave a rather simple definition. Life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability and achievement, regardless of social class or circumstances or birth. Now, when you look at a dream, it has usually a few vital components. You can imagine a higher ideal of something, like a better version of yourself, better quality of life, more happiness. And sometimes it's easier to imagine something better when you're in a place of misery. It gets a little harder when you're in a place of complacency. A dream has something to do with overcoming limitation. When you're at an abyss and don't know quite how to do something, that's the moment of transcending, being guided by something deeper within you, and take the jump. So let's explore the American dream in 2023. With me in the studio today are Yemni Pinales, who immigrated from the Dominican Republic. I have Glenn Morrell, who's an American for generations and gives us a very different side. We have Al Ford, an African-American who'll be joining us shortly from Las Vegas via Zoom. And we have a range of voices and thoughts that we captured from people on the street. And we're still working on getting a Native American point of view to talk about what it would mean for them actually today. But first things first. Welcome to all of my studio guests today. Great to have you all here. And before we get into our dive in discussion and voices from the street, here's the sustainability news of the week. Brazil's Amazon deforestation dropped 34% from January to June this year. In the first month of the year, the rainforest had alerts for possible deforestation covering 2,650 square kilometers compared to alerts covering 4,000 square kilometers during the same time period last year. California has a long-awaited high-speed train coming, which will be solar-powered, according to the California High-Speed Rail Authority. 552 acres of solar power are required to power this train. On-board batteries are supposed to store 62 megawatt hours of power. Now make your own assessment on how sustainable that really is. Share your thoughts with us on Facebook or Twitter. Huge mineral discovery made in Norway. Phosphate deposits were discovered in southwestern Norway that could possibly supply electric vehicles, solar panels, and fertilizers for at least 50 years to come. The ore was discovered originally in 2018, but it was revealed recently that they'd found 70 billion tons of the material. That's quite a number. Now, are you living in the right space? If not, you could actually miss out on the fountain of youth. No, we're not talking about a new skincare. A new study has found that having access to parks and community gardens in your neighborhood can actually slow biological aging by as much as 2.5 years. A joint Spanish-American research team found that people living near green spaces are literally on average 2.5 years younger biologically than those who do not. Living near greenness can help you be younger than your actual age, said Kyuzu Kim, the study's lead author at Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine. Well, not surprising, because most of us do feel better in the green overall. If you thought dragons only exist in fairy tales and fiction, well, here's an update for you. A tiny earless dragon who was thought to be extinct has been spotted for the first time in over 50 years. The Victorian grassland earless dragon, as this little species is called, is a native to East Australia or East Australian grasslands and was last spotted in the wild in 1969. Conservationists previously made unsuccessful efforts to locate the earless dragon, but they have now discovered a small population. Fashion and pollution still go hand in hand, and they still pose a challenge. While Zara, one of the fast fashion's biggest player, is taking steps towards a more sustainable business model, the change won't come easy. A business model that is predicated on high production volume, fast turnaround, and low cost would require a whole different approach. So to be able to deliver cheap clothes, you need to make up the revenue by volume, which means consumers keep a waste mentality and production is keeping up with it. Zara said it seeks to reduce emissions by 50% by 2030 and will focus more on longer lasting and more recyclable materials. It's a great effort, but hard to see, particularly since it's not just the emissions, but also the water pollution, the economic conditions of manufacturing that play a huge role. Fashion is one of the largest water polluters. Remember, we did an episode on fashion, which you can watch here and get the facts. And our last sustainability news this week come from the US. The Hy-Vee IndyCar race weekend announced several initiatives this very weekend to promote environmental, economic, and social sustainability, keeping Iowa racing towards zero. To make a positive impact on the local community, they will launch a robust waste diversion effort, pledge support for veterans and active military members, offer free Family Friday access, and work with Iowa-based enterprises to incorporate locally sourced food for both the spectators and the athletes. Now, Hy-Vee IndyCar Weekend, which starts on July 21st, is touted as the most sustainable in NTT's IndyCar series' 15-year-old history. So let's wait for the results. And if you visited the event this week in Iowa, please share your observations with us, because I'd love to know how many of those initiatives were actually implemented and how they actually came across and played out. Now back to our topic this evening, In Search of the American Dream 2023, or what's left of it. We'll start off actually this first round with a simple yes and no question round. So we're going to start with all of you, and then we're going to hear the other voices on the street. But what I would like to ask you, and this is really simple to answer, no explanation, just yes or no. I'm going to start with you, Yemni. Is the American dream alive today?
It's a hard question. I will say yes.
Okay. What do you say? Is the American dream alive today?
Yes.
Hesitant, but okay. Next question. Do you live it?
No.
Do you live it?
Yes.
Is the American dream closely linked to happiness?
Yes.
Is the American dream closely linked to happiness?
Yes.
Very similar. Does it refer to the material only?
No.
No.
Okay, so you're not that far apart. And we'll hear lots of voices actually on what other people are thinking about that as well.
I don't feel that it is.
Okay. Why not?
There are too many. From my perspective, there are too many people who have a dream of their own, and it's not necessarily what we call the American dream. I think for many, they just want peace in their lives, and that becomes somewhat of an American dream versus the original American dream, which was having a home, having the kids, having the house.
Say yes.
Okay.
It has to be.
Do you live it?
I believe I do.
Okay. Is it linked to happiness?
Ooh, and I can only answer yes or no. I'm going to say yes tentatively.
Okay. Is it material only?
No, no way.
Okay.
The American dream is simple. It simply means that every race of people who lives in America or comes to America will have the same equal opportunity to be able to survive and thrive.
I think it was just a learned behavior that you assume, and the majority took on.
Is it linked to happiness? Is the American dream?
I think it's a false hope of happiness, in my opinion. I've always thought that way as a young child. I don't follow the herd. So because of that, I always thought there were other dreams to be had versus making assumptions that everyone else should follow.
Well, that's a darn good question. Obviously, it's different for everybody, depending on our upbringing, what we were taught, how we were our environment, what your parents, how your parents guided you, and even if they even said, what's your dream? What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to have at a certain age? For me, I was never told that. I was very happy, but I was never said, you got the American dream, Roberta. You can have anything you want if you do A, B, C, and D. I just kind of went along with, okay, you're a certain age, you do this, you're a certain age, you do that. You're a woman, you get married, your future is most likely you get married, have kids, and that's that. But growing up, I got removed from that umbilical cord, if you will, and realized that there was more to life than doing that. Did I ever have that American dream? I don't think consciously I did.
I'm going to start this time with Glenn. What is the American dream to you, Glenn?
The opportunities that we have, from the opportunities that are available to you as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult.
What is the American dream to you, Andy?
I have to repeat, of course, opportunities. I believe, and that's why I'm here, for the opportunities, and also hope, freedom, and it's in many ways. Freedom cannot be limited just to freedom of speech.
Right.
There's a lot of the freedom can be an open gate.
Like what, for example?
For
Give us an
example, I'm going to go by the Constitution, the freedom of religion. Okay, that everybody dream to have. Now, all the countries have. This country have the freedom of religion, and that's one of the things that I love about this country. And also the freedom of speech, always with respect. I believe that should be. And also the freedom of be yourself. Regardless, everybody's or anyone believe the way I am have to be respected, and I have to respect the way you are. I think that when we talk about freedom, we open also our fears, because when our fears, we also have the fear of being alone, being lonely, which is not the same, being sad. So all the freedom that can be coming from the lack of resources that can help us to be free of those, and I'm talking about health, which is something that I well know. So when I'm talking about health is something that everybody should dream about. And when you said about freedom, is that everybody should have that freedom to have free health.
So you connected to freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Freedom for you also means having choices for your health,
Of
taking
course.
care of your health.
Yes.
And then the respect. Now you mentioned 3 of these actually. Do we still have these today in our culture? Do we still have the respect of everyone in a cancel culture time? In a time where it's hard, where we all think twice about what we're going to say because you're worried about offending someone?
I guess sometimes it's encapsulated.
Okay.
It's in a capsule because, like you just said, whatever I said may offend somebody, and I may be sued about it. I can be put it on a label. Can be put a label on it. So that freedom is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Like, if you have a freedom to express yourself, what about if I have a freedom to be different? So that freedom probably is being there somewhere, and we cannot find it sometimes. So that's a freedom that every American should have.
What do you think? We still have that? Or it's
I agree with that. I mean, it ebbs and flows. I mean, we're still quite a young country if we're speaking just about North America.
right.
That freedom has curved throughout our short lifespan. and it hasn't always been there. And there have been. This isn't the first cancel culture. If you look back on history, this is not the first time there's been this disruption. And we got through it then, and I'm optimistic that we still have these freedoms.
Yeah, well, when you
There's
look
always-
back through history, through times of cancel cultures, at least in other countries where it existed, that usually was quite tumultuous. I don't think it's a time that any of us actually wants to go in.
No, or go back to. I mean, nobody's burning anybody at the stake right now, physically. But I do think that, I mean, flip it. The freedom to work from home,
Yeah.
that's a freedom. Freedom of speech, and sure, it's on the news every single day, but we have it. People are flocking to move to North America, not so much vice versa. We still do have, I believe, the freest country in the world.
That's what you think. Okay.
As a young country, I mean, we've come a long way.
Let me ask you, has your idea of the American dream when you were a kid evolved or changed into something else today? So if you'd say the American dream in 2023, what would it be for you in 3 words or something?
Okay. We are great. North America is great at rapid change. Other countries are great at sustaining traditions, old structures and buildings. We're great at tearing down old structures and building them back up.
Yeah.
Change management, I forget the name of the author who wrote Who Moved My Cheese.
Yes.
And change management is one of the highlights of corporations today because of, and it was back when, 20 years ago, and it still is today. We excel at change. And if you're finding negative in today's cancel culture or whatever's going on in the news on a minute by minute, second by second basis, sit back a minute, take a breath. It too shall pass. Things will change.
Yeah.
We're great at it.
That's a good point, actually. It's a very good point. So now you mentioned something at the beginning, Yemini. You said you're not living the American dream. Clarify that for us. So why? How long have you been here?
15 years.
15 years. So when you came here, you said you came here because of wanting a better life.
Yes.
Freedoms.
There were a lot of changes in my family,
Okay.
like loss, illness,
Okay.
and that changed a lot the structure of my family.
Okay.
So since all that changes came without announcement, took off for surprise, and there was a moment that we felt trapped
Okay.
on a cage. Even when should be other solution, we decided in my home to immigrate. And when I'm saying I am not living the dream, because the American dream give opportunities to everybody. In my case, my profession hasn't been able to perform in this country. As when you achieve a doctorate degree, and you have to put that on a drawer and pull up a high school diploma, which is not offended. I think that pull you a lot down of what you can give. And when I say the American dream, sometimes for professionals who immigrate, it is very challenging to go to their profession. You can grow in other areas and be even more succeed, but probably your passion have to be put it aside so you can survive and contain the situation that you're living at.
Yeah. Yeah, I can identify with that one, actually. And it happens to a lot of people who come from other countries when they come here and they suddenly find that their diplomas aren't recognized, their schools are not known, so you suddenly come here with all this hope, and then you're here and then you go like, oh, well, wait a minute, but so where's my dream?
And then you see that there is a lack of professional in that area that you can give to the country. But you are not entitled to do it. So that way, I guess, and I'm saying that from my personal opinion, the exchange of knowledge could benefit both the country and us as immigrants who can give more than what we are open to give. And that's why when you were saying about the rapid changes, that this is a country who can build quickly and submit to changes, also can raise a question to me. And it is that, what if the changes are changing the roots? That can be dangerous, because that's when the changes are changing the roots. The roots are the roots. You can change at a home, you can change the decoration, you can change the color, but you cannot, the foundation, you cannot tear down every time you're going to do something different. So connecting that to the American dream probably have a lot to do with the freedom. Sometimes can be put in a position where people are not just being free, but taking advantage of that freedom. And about changes and putting, if I'm living the American dream, I haven't lose hope, but I wish could be easier and faster.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think on the other end, though, it's also that when you come here, at least I'm also speaking from an immigrant perspective, who ran into that same issue, believe it or not, actually. My school wasn't, so it was less well known, so you kind of have to explain it and things like that. So, but, and I had to find a different way to actually essentially doing what I wanted to do. But on the other hand, it sparks your creativity, which also, I guess, goes back in a way to the heart of the American dream, because you can pioneer your own path either way, right?
Now more than ever. I mean, the creativity in the youth right now is mind-boggling. I mean, it's not, and part of me is the old curmudgeon that says, God, they don't want to work hard. The youth today don't want to work hard. But you turn on, videos, social media, their creativity is immense. What used to cost so much money to get into, they're able to produce, on their iPhone. And it's really created this mass amount of creativity. That part I love. But they can't all be great at it, and they can't all monetize it. Some of us still have to work in a kitchen, or some of us still have to have a trade that makes a living. Or want to pursue higher education and be leaders, and that is, I don't want to talk about so much, go back to the concerns or whatever, or the concerns. Who's going to lead their generation, the next generation after them? They can't all be video producers.
No, that's
or
correct.
Influencers.
That's correct.
Right.
They cannot.
That will be challenging.
Yeah, but that brings up another question, actually, because we always hear when you come to America, part of the American dream, I don't even know where it comes from, has this idea that you have to work hard and then you make it. So I'm going to ask, well, you're the American on here. Where does this idea come from? Is that a totally, so this part of that you actually have to work hard, is that an outdated concept that came from the Prussians? When you take, when you look at how the assembly line used to work, you work hard, you do your work, and then you move on. Because nowadays in manifestation, we all know that it's not the working hard part. It's actually what you focus your thoughts on. So the creative process is actually a different manifestation than working hard.
Well, I mean, prior to the Industrial Revolution, people were really working hard.
That's right.
I mean, they were doing a horrible job at conservation, but they were working hard, chopping down trees and, staying alive.
Right.
Industrial Revolution changed things. We went from trading beaver pelts to trading money, and everybody came to the cities for jobs, and it was hard work. Your question is where
is that concept of having to work hard.
Somebody's got to be doers.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean to work hard, like slave 60, 70 hours a week, or can that be done with less? Or is it actually?
Well, even though our population is kind of ebbing, there's plenty of people to do the work. So if you were scheduling a crew or a kitchen staff to fulfill the week, the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you have plenty of people, if they want to do the work, to spread it out so nobody's, you know, lacking all their life balance. So we're not doing 60-hour work weeks. What my concern is not being able to find that worker who wants a mere 40-hour work week. I don't even want to do a 60-hour work week, you know. But if you're passionate about what you do, you know, you'd be surprised how fast that time flies. And, you know, if people, you know, my age and we mentor and we understand that this upcoming job fulfillers need a little bit less hours a week, need more life balance, then that's something we got to figure out, you know, tapping into that labor pool so that, you know, fewer people aren't doing all the work. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, except that there are still those people who do the work. The companies can't get enough of those people who do the actual work because people like the remote work and the creative work.
Well,
and
what
staying
changed that? I
home.
mean, COVID definitely, you know, made a change to that. But we've lived through, you know, Great Depressions and changes in society, and I think it, I think it has to come back. We still need people to actually do things. You know, when I first moved here at the DC area, when I learned that think tank was an actual job, I knew I would excel at something because I had to do the work. I could do the work. All right.
Yeah, that's right. But you didn't join a think tank, did you?
No, I joined the workforce.
Okay, now Yemni, you mentioned you thought that it has a lot to do with happiness. So what is happiness to you?
Happiness is to be with, like you said, you have to enjoy what you're doing, but also have enough of what you need.
So the basics, or having more than the basics.
Have what you need, and sometimes what you need is more than the basic. So happiness, if you said, and that is the poverty line has made about the necessity. And sometimes necessity, it is just the basic for you to survive. But people need more than that to be happy.
That's right.
Because if you just keep the line, so we keep just surviving, when are we going to be happy? I mean, surviving, of course, it's a natural instinct.
So what is it for you then? What is happiness for you? Define it for you. When you say that it's what you need. So give us sort of like what is it to you?
Well, happiness...
When do you know you're happy?
Well, happy to me is when the people that I love are around me and they have what they need, and I can be there for them.
So when they have what they need, do they need a sports car? Do they need their own house? Do they need... So how do you define have what they need?
The needs have to do with the basic necessity, but also to enjoy life. Because maybe a sport car, it is not a necessity, but
some like it, and for them it's important.
Exactly. But to me, it's like having my family,
Right.
have the time to spend time with my family,
Yeah.
not miss the games that my daughter have because I have to work. Because sometimes those 60 hours are not about my passion, but are about my needs. So, you know, happiness is about to be able to also give something to the society, to help, to provide, not just receiving, also giving. So happiness to me is also about giving. I love to give. That's why I volunteer a lot.
Yeah.
In between my job, I also volunteer because happiness to me is not just, oh, I just need and receive. It also happiness to give.
Yeah. So when you look at you're a career changer, I think it's fair to say, right? At times.
Of course.
So does that factor in your definition of the American dream, that you actually have, and I think we do have here, the ability to change at any stage in life into something new, which I really think is very, very uniquely American, because I do not think there's, at least not the countries I've been at or have lived at where you can literally change what you're doing at any stage in life. If you go to Europe, for example, as soon as you approach 40, and if you want to change sort of your profession because you figure out, oh, I really want to do something else, they're going to tell you you're losing your mind. They're not going to let you going to allow you to do that, actually. So I think in the United States, so you can do that. You can be 60 or 65 and you decide you want to go to school and do something else, you can do that. You start a new job, people actually would applaud you for that versus, sort of hanging, sort of instead of punishing you. I see we have our third guest join us. Get back to you, hold the thought. We will get back to that, hold the thought. Elle, what is the American, well, let me ask you this way, you get the short question too. Is the American dream alive today? Yes or no?
Yes, it is very much alive and well.
Okay. Do you live it?
I do live it. I do live it, and I am here right now with the youngest of my 5 children, and we are living the dream because we are taking the opportunity that's available here in America, education and athletics, and the opportunity for great health and a great healthcare system here in America. I define that as an opportunity for the American dream for myself and my family.
Interesting. That's almost what you said, Yemini.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Do you define the American dream as material only, or are there other dimensions to it?
Definitely not the material only, and I believe having the entrepreneurial spirit is not just for material access or material gain. I definitely feel that there's a spiritual component to knowing when you wake up in the morning that your hard work and self-determination can allow you to accomplish great things here in America. And when it comes to sports, being a basketball coach, to understand that this is an opportunity to be like Michael Jordan, that I can fail and fail and fail again, but I can rise again and succeed. So these are things that we learn in sports, and this is the ideal of the American dream, that no matter what your circumstances, you can fail, but you can also have the opportunity to succeed.
This is actually a great way of talking about this, that is true. Here you can fail, it doesn't matter, and you can simply get back up and do it again and do it better.
Absolutely, absolutely. I do believe in that. I do believe in, and I was just talking with a good friend of mine in preparation for the call, to understand that within our education system, that might be an area within our democracy where the opportunity may not be scaled proportionately to allow equal access and equal opportunity. And maybe that's an area where we can discuss and have debates to allow that slippery slope up the side of the mountain at the youngest ages, to be able to have a foothold that allows them to scale that side of the mountain with more ease of access. And so whether that's school choice or charter schools, that's open to debate. And I believe the best of our minds can approach this and come up with an opportunity for us, and especially for our children.
Yeah, that's a great way of seeing it. Any of you wants to add something to this one?
Of course, he came up with what I was saying. Health, education is what's going to keep a country moving. The fairness for those are what the people need to complete the American dream. You have to be healthy, that make a strong nation. And of course, education is what moves you forward.
Yeah. Do you say the same?
We used to really, I think as a country, not too long ago, really try to draw in the smartest of the smartest from everywhere in the world. And you would hear about it. We would hear about, we were in competition with other countries, especially in the tech field. And somewhere that kind of got lost in the weeds, where we don't strive for the best, the best.
Yeah. Elle, before I let you go, is it closely linked to happiness, the American dream?
Absolutely, it is closely linked to happiness, the pursuit of happiness. Pursuit of happiness.
Has the definition of the American dream changed to you over the decades? So when you look back as a kid to now, has it changed?
It has, because of my outlook. So as my outlook, it's not as individualistic. It is something that stretches into my community with more threads and sinew and branches, to the point where now at my age and my journey, I am thinking about the diversity of America much, much more. I'm not thinking just in terms of my community, but the diversity of America. So when I think about that, I do think about the brotherhood of understanding, do our indigenous Native Americans, do they have the same opportunity for the pursuit of happiness? Are those who come from Mesoamerica, whether they were Mexicans who were incorporated into the citizenship of America, do they have the same opportunity as all of us do? And I think that's an area where we all are motivated to strive, but I don't think we're all at the same table when it comes to those thoughts. And so it does affect my level of happiness when I don't feel that my brother has the same opportunity that I do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Then and you can start thinking about this too. If you had to give the American dream a character, so think about it as a character, who would it be? How would you describe it?
Oh my goodness! Oh man, it's slipping my mind. But you know, when you think about a boxer, to be able to get knocked down and to continue to get back up. If that's Muhammad Ali, who's stripped of his title, but he jumps back up. But as far as a character, it takes me back, and I see the chef on the show. I didn't see his name, but when it takes us back to Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner,
I thought about it.
To be able to say, no matter what tries to stop us, we're still going to go. We're still going to speed down the road, no matter what the obstacle.
Yeah. When you think about the future, what's the first thing that comes to mind to you?
My children.
Okay, and then when you think about the America of the future and your children, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah. Yes, what we grew up with, the melting pot. How will the melting pot of America, that is now so relevant and so easily seen, the visibility of the melting pot is so clear to us at this point in our journey, that's what I think about for my children. How will the melting pot continue to melt and merge together, and the polarized nature of where we are today, will we get it right? Will we understand that the lifting of one ship is the lifting of all? That injustice somewhere is injustice and affecting injustice everywhere. So that's what I want to think about when it comes to my children. That's the world that I want them to live in.
Okay. What is, when you think about the next 2 to 5 years, what's your first two concerns that come to mind?
The first two concerns, the polarized nature, that everything is so bipartisan and so aligned to that bipartisan ideal at this point, that we're so entrenched in that attitude at this point. That deeply concerns me. And then when it comes to world affairs, it seems to be more turbulent at this time, based on the understanding that I have of world affairs. That's a concern for me too, as other world powers now are emerging, and this is something where we may be concerned about our own power and foothold in the world as the leading power. That is something that I think is right at the forefront of where we are in America today.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Elle, you're welcome to stay on. I just don't know how long you're going to stay on, but I want to keep going with the discussion. You can stay on if you like. You can chime in, or then we just continue it here to the three of you. Now, have you thought about a character? If you had to give the American dream a character, come on, Glenn. What character would you give it?
I mean, we're a chameleon. We're lizards. We're a lizard. We're a chameleon that speaks many different languages.
Chameleon? Okay.
Well, I already spoke to the change.
Yes, you
and
did.
I'm managing with it, and as such a young country comparatively, you know, if I had to think of a character, it'd be that.
Okay, good. You have anything in mind as a character?
I do. I agree with him with what's mentioned in Bugs Bunny, but I will say an ant.
An ant?
Yes.
Why?
An ant can lift 500 times their weight. In the American dream,
Yeah.
sometime someone is carrying one time, sometime 10 times, sometime 500 times their weight to make it.
That's a good point, actually. Very, very good. So we got, okay, sum it up here quickly. So we got 3 characters. We got a boxer, we got a lizard, and we got an ant. Very interesting. So actually, I'm going to invite you at home also think about if you had to give your American dream of 2023 a character, who would you actually choose? You can also fantasize, you can create one, but if you actually think about, you know, if you had to give it a character, I'd be really curious to know what that is. Please reach out, send us an email, text us, tweet us. The best is always through my Twitter handle @DeVidar. I'd be very, very curious to see what you all come up with.
A cross between Disney World's Goofy and I think it's Looney Tunes, the Tasmanian Devil.
That's an interesting mix.
A whirlwind, because an American dream I feel like is a whirlwind. There's so much unknown.
My grandparents.
They are the American dream?
Mm-hmm.
They lived it.
Mm-hmm. Back in the day, yeah, they're immigrants. I know we talk a lot about immigrants now in a much different fashion. They went to Ellis Island. They spoke no English. But their dream was to make it on their own, to be able to pay for their kids' shoes, to send them to good schools, to have a roof over their head. Absolutely.
I wanted to talk also with you in terms of, let's future forward here, next 2 to 5 years. What are your biggest, well, what comes to mind, first of all, when you think about the next 2 to 5 years, you know, about America?
The succeed of my children's, and when I'm talking my children's, my daughter is going to high school this year. I would love to have the opportunity to give the education that I want and I have dreamed for her, and the one that my mother gave me. And I would love to see that fulfilled.
Okay.
So I want to see that in the next 5 years, yes.
Awesome. What about you, Glenn?
Well, we're all kind of saying the same thing. We gravitate toward our children. I would so much like to see a more ethical approach, a less Kardashian approach to things and brands, and more of an ethical, you know, community approach.
Okay, I think you need to clarify for some viewers what you mean by a less Kardashian approach.
You know, private airplanes, skimpy clothes, having the best of everything, 20 cars, you know, kids nowadays, and not all of them, but, you know, what you have and what you're wearing, and we grew up with some of that as well, but what you have, what you're wearing, where you live, what's the size of your house is such a, to them, a measurement of their happiness and success. And I would like to see in the next, and I do see, me personally, I do think it's changing. It's not a new, you know, thing in world history or biblical history that, you know, it is cyclical, that, you know, ethics do come and go. And I'd like to see our young people start getting out of that and more back to community. And then, of course, international affairs, you know, that's always a concern.
So, okay, I'm going to chime in because I have a different concern, actually. So for me, it's more like, how do we, I think we need more human interaction and less hiding behind machines and screens, less texting and actually more talking. We need less communicating by 3-word sentences, or they're not even sentences, they're just like something, blurbs that come out there, versus talking to people. That to me is a big concern because I see it a lot among young people particularly. That is an issue. I think that's actually the biggest one for me. Now, when you think about what excites you most in the outlook going forward, what would that be?
I mean, technology is fantastic. I mean, like I said, we were in such a technological fight against foreign nations when it came to who was going to produce the best car, you know.
Oh, that's going to be the Germans. Sorry to say that. I have to say that.
It's got the most computer chips in it. So, you know, technology, I think, and what excites me is, you know, just keeping up with it. Even at my age, I love downloading the new apps and just seeing what they do. Apparently, if you read the news, AI is so scary to some people. To me, I'm like, bring it on. Let's see what this, you know, let's see what Junior can do.
What Junior can
you know, because it may, you know, there's going to be good in it, hopefully.
What Junior can do, so you
yeah.
consider AI Junior?
I consider technology, you know, to be something we can't stop.
Yeah.
And, you know, despite, you know, controls and whatnot, it always seems to keep going. I'm very excited about medicine, you know, and how that's prolonged, you know, life and helped life. You know, our mortality rates are higher. There's less poverty. There's less. People are getting food around the world, and as we globalize, whether you like that term globalization or not, as North America, as the United States globalizes with the rest of the world, we lift up other countries, much like our other guest was saying, you know, paying attention to that. And our success does lift ships. You know, our tide does lift other countries.
Yeah, yeah. What excites you most?
It excites me that, as we mentioned earlier, we are in a constant evolution and revolution. So the revolutionary ideas that comes to expand, I can find the opportunities that I have probably been missed and achieve the dreams that I came here with.
Do your children think similarly about the American dream?
Probably not.
How would they define it?
Probably not, because they have a different life, like you mentioned. That is a different world for them, and the electronics have probably give them a different idea of what is the reality. So probably they are in a sub-reality. So I don't think they have the needs that I have. They haven't have the challenges that I have. They didn't have to learn English. They didn't have to still thinking twice because my thought came in Spanish and I have to translate, and probably they don't come even the way that I put it there. So for them, it's way different than me.
Do you think going off on your own, being a business owner, being a freelancer, do you think it's actually still possible to really live the American dream that way today, or has it changed a little bit? And if so, what would need to happen to make this more flourishing so that everyone can really succeed and work on their own terms of what they want to do?
The easiest answer to that, for me, is try doing it somewhere else. You know, try opening, if I went to Germany, Italy, countries I love to visit, and people I love, if I tried to do that there, no chance I could do that there.
Right.
Whereas, vice versa, it doesn't get much easier. Could they remove some of the red tape and make it easier on, you know, the gig worker or the small business person? Oh, by all means. And you know, that's been a constant struggle. I would agree with that. So, how do you envision your America of the future? Expect more of the same.
Expect more of the same from when? Expect more of the same from the last 2 years, the last 4 years, the last 5 years, the last decade?
I mean, bell bottoms are going to come back, whether we hated them or loved them. There's always going to be, you know, new issues to deal with. Leadership changes.
You sound like you don't want change. You said at the beginning you like change, we're great, but then you say continue as is.
No, it's going to keep doing this. It's a roller coaster ride. Grab on. I love it. And now you can look at it negatively or positively, you know, rose-colored glasses color, you know, or me. But I just believe that from the history I've read and the mentors I've followed, that this, in my lifetime, is not going to be super drastic without coming back and flipping itself upside down. You know, I don't think the kids today are going to remain opportunistic or want just the physicality. I see downsizing even at all ages. They don't need the brand new furniture and the 4-bedroom home. They want, you know, tiny houses and travel. They don't need a stationary big thing.
Okay, so the America of the future that you're seeing is just keeping going on the roller coaster ride. That's what you're saying.
Somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat. Okay. What is your America of the future?
I go back to opportunities.
Okay.
I go back there. We start with opportunity, and I need to go back because, as Alfred mentioned, there are a lot of people that sometimes they don't have the same opportunities, and that can keep them down and away from the American dream, so that everybody can actually have the American dream.
So you want to see more opportunities?
Of course. And I won't mention a list, but you know there is a huge list.
Well, let's take the 3 top ones.
Immigration.
Immigration, make it easier?
That will be the first one, health.
Health.
And education. Those opportunities when people have to have a status to actually move on. People that work for 40 years here and then they cannot have Social Security because they don't have any status. I mean, that can be a loan, that can be a big, there is a big opening there. And education, a lot of people cannot just keep moving because they have to help their families. It's not enough. Their elders don't have the resources they need. So the youngest have to stop their dreams.
Yes, it's a lack of material resources because you need to go and work and make ends meet before you can actually do something else.
Exactly, and sometimes it's not a choice. You have the problem in front of you. So they have to stop their life to sustain the life of the people that they love. And that is, I think this
but that's kind of also a challenge that everyone at some point is running into. So that is kind of when you really, that's what I meant at the beginning of my intro, when you have the abyss, when you really get to a point where you're so limited, but that's when you really have to give it off to where the spirit has to come through. That's the entrepreneurial spirit, the pioneering thing that comes through, that works through you so you can actually jump that abyss and you create your path. To me, that is opportunity, right?
I agree. Totally agree, but there are a lot of challenges, and health. That's one of the challenges that sometimes comes to because that's a big one. If we want a healthy nation, it's going to have the power to move the whole nation up. So health should be something that should be affordable for everybody.
Now, in this last few minutes, I want to do something else. I'm going to give each of you a word and just make it short and sort of say what comes to mind with that, okay? So we're going to start upcoming election. Just anything that comes to mind, 2, 3 words. What do you think about it? Upcoming election, what comes to mind?
Who's the right one? Because that will come to my mind. Who's really giving me and actually how I know it's going to fulfill that, because can be a lot of promises. Especially I come from a background that, of course, there are promises that I probably open my eyes, but who do I believe?
Okay. Upcoming elections, Glenn.
You're not going to get anybody who's paid to crystal ball who's going to be the next president to say so now. Nor should we, because it's going to flip-flop and change so many times. You know, just because we can watch them on the news over and over and over again, and who gets more press, who doesn't, we can make estimates now, but I don't even think Charlie Cook gets that right, you know, and he's been doing it his entire life. So for me to do it and watch.
No, I wasn't actually, interestingly, I wasn't asking for upcoming election to if you give me a crystal, you know, give me an outlook. It's sort of like, what would you think about upcoming election? Could have been anything. What's the first thought that comes to mind?
Oh, exciting, pop the corn.
Okay. Next word, family. What comes to mind?
please become more of a community. Talking about us growing up and what we missed, what was American dream for us, and we riding our bikes down the street, and where the clump of bikes was where we were playing, getting our nose out of our phones, teaching that level of ethics and community, having neighbors actually know each other's names, and being there. I want to be able to borrow a cup of sugar from my neighbor again.
Strengthen the families, mentally, spiritually, and financially. Families are falling apart in many ways, and I'm talking in behalf of a lot of families. I'm very close with mine, but when the family is weak, the whole society is weak. So when I think about my family, if I have a strong family, I can be sure that we're going to have a strong country. So when I think about it, we need a stronger families, more communication, more time, spending time together, the freedom to have time with the family.
That's interesting. Gender equality.
Say that again.
Gender equality.
I don't get it. What exactly?
Gender equality is, balance between genders.
Okay.
Anything that comes to mind.
Okay. The equality put us as women in disadvantage because we need to still do what we do, plus more.
Okay.
So when you mean equality, sounds great, but in the reality, it is a lot of more weight. But of course, we would like to know that because my gender, I can have the same opportunity, the same salary, and the same compassion, even when I have probably more hormones to deal with. I have a lot to do, a lot to give.
Point.
So when my son asked me, and my son is in the spectrum of autism, he told me, why can't you lift that like I do it? Because you have different strengths. So when you see, we have to give each one accordingly to their capacity, but have the same.
Gender equality.
I don't have to comment on
No
that
comment.
without my lawyer present.
Okay, next topic, LGBTQ.
Wow, talk about one of the strongest, fastest awareness campaigns in the history of North America. Really, all of a sudden, they've really come to their own and gotten everybody aware. So I commend their marketing efforts and whatever the capacity of the citizens of the United States for just becoming aware of it, whether you agree with the directions they're going, and they will fumble the ball. We're seeing some of that now, but good on you. That didn't take much time at all to flip around and create a campaign.
Okay. LGBTQ, what comes to mind?
Freedom again. I should be free to believe, not impose.
Okay. Responsible citizenship.
It is to care about my neighbor,
Okay.
not being selfish.
Okay. Responsible
Yeah.
citizenship.
Doing for others when you have that opportunity.
Okay. Government.
Too big.
Government.
Too many choices
Too many choices for what?
for one solution.
Too many choices for one solution.
A lot of
Meaning-
brains want it to be the smart one when they should agree for the common well-being.
So you mean too many, too far apart, like too many. Okay, got it. And last one, your future.
I figure I've got another good decade ahead of me of hard work, and before I go into think tanking.
You really like the think tanks. We get that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I look at pictures of my brothers and I'm like, I said, we're looking more like teachers than doers all of a sudden. When did this happen? Which there's nothing wrong. We need great teachers and paid well, whatever. Good teachers. Go for it.
Yep.
But Yeah, I'm looking more like one of those.
Okay. Your future?
Hope.
Hope.
Never lose hope that I can be who I want to be.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming on. Thank you so much for watching. This was it for this first episode, actually, on exploring what is the American dream for 2023. I would like to invite you all to think about this and share your ideas, share your thoughts, share what excites you. Also let us know what really comes to mind where you think, like, I'm really concerned about that. That would be great too. Other than that, thanks so much to all of you for coming on, and you have a wonderful week. We see you next week or next Sunday. Have a good night.